3 True Terror Street Stories. It was late September in Shreveport, Louisiana. The kind of night where the air sat heavy and nothing felt quite right. That was when we first saw him standing by the tarot reader's porch, motionless, smiling behind a mask. Camille was 23, a local pageant girl turned receptionist, short dark hair, striking green eyes. She had no business being part of what came next, but she wanted answers. That's why she knocked on the door of Maudie's tarot room. I was with her Derek and so was Lena, our friend since college. Maudie read the cards, but none of us expected the fourth person already inside. A man in a dark coat, seated in the corner, face covered in a pale mask, eyes just holes. When the lights flickered, he laughed. A dry, deliberate sound. Camille asked what he wanted. He didn't reply. He just pointed at the cards on the table. Temperance sat at the center. We left after that, but he kept showing up. At Camille's work, outside Lena's apartment, on the train, across from me. Never saying anything, just watching. When Camille got a note slipped into her mailbox, it was just one sentence: come back and finish the reading. She wanted to ignore it. We all did. But that night, she didn't answer her phone. Her place was locked from the outside. Her shoes were still by the door. Inside, the table was reset, same as before. Candles lit. Cards laid out. No one there, but a faint smell of jasmine and mold. Then the mirror cracked on its own. We found her 2 days later, in a park 20 miles away. No memory. Her eyes wouldn't close when she blinked. She kept repeating one thing: he's not a man. He's the reason the cards shake. Now we stay together. We travel town to town, helping Maudie break the pattern. Because that thing, whatever it is, he follows the cards. And he always shows up for the 14th draw. In the final scene, he stands at the edge of the woods, mask tilted, coat brushing against the grass. His laugh returns softer now, almost like it's coming from inside you. Camille steps toward him once, like drawn by a string, then stops. He turns and vanishes. A step. But the cards remain on the ground. All 13 face up, one still flipped, and we know what's coming next. October settled heavy over Savannah, Georgia. A still, damp kind of night, where sound didn't carry and shadows arrived before the sunset. That was the first time we saw him again standing beneath a flickering street lamp, head tilted, the same dark coat, the same pale mask, smiling like he'd never left. Camille had been trying to forget what happened in Shreveport. She dyed her hair lighter, moved into a new place above a quiet bookstore, tried to ignore the itch behind her spine whenever the wind blew wrong. But some nights, she'd see reflections that didn't match hers. A flash of movement in the corner of a mirror, the scent of old jasmine and wet wood. One morning, she woke to a single tarot card taped to her window, the moon, reversed. Derek and Lena drove down to stay with her. I came a day later. None of us mentioned his name, but we all thought the same thing. He hadn't finished whatever he started. Camille said he whispered to her now, not in words, but in flashistries with no leaves, doors that wouldn't open, laughter in places no one stood. Then came the night Maudie called. Her voice shook. A reading had gone wrong. A new girl, Eliza, 25, full of fire and curiosity, wanted to test the cards. She picked 13 without knowing what it meant. That was when the room changed. The candles burned sideways. The air thinned, and he stepped through the veil behind her. Mask first, shoulders next. Eliza froze. Maudie yelled, but no one could move. He bent close to Eliza, inches from her face, and smiled wider than skin should allow. We rushed to the shop. Eliza was gone. The cards lay scattered, a smear of ash near the chair. Camille screamed and pointed at the window. He was there, watching, but not outside. from inside the glass, like it was a doorway. That night we stayed in a single room. We locked every entrance, salt across the floor, symbols drawn by Maudie's chalk. Still, just after 3 a.m., the lights dimmed. Camille sat upright in bed and said, without blinking, "He wants the final card." We never drew the final one. That was the conflict, the unfinished reading. Somehow, the tarot had opened something, and he was bound to the spread. To end it, we had to draw the last card. But who would dare? Camille refused. Maudie warned us it could be a trap, but Eliza was still missing. We returned to the shop. Quiet. Dustier than it should have been. We set the cards in the same order. 12 laid down, 1 remained. I reached for it. He appeared. Not like before, not slowly. This time he stepped directly into the circle of light. Taller than I remembered. He didn't move like a person. He hovered just slightly. His coat didn't sway. His mask didn't blink. He gestured once toward Camille. She shook her head, stepping behind Lena. He moved again. Faster. Not walking, but present. Camille stumbled. He leaned over her, his mask just above her skin. Then Maudie threw salt toward him, chanting under her breath. He recoiled, but didn't disappear. He turned his head sharply toward her, expression unchanging, and the table caught fire without flame. The cards curled into smoke. The 13th never revealed. He vanished. That night, Camille found a small cut behind her ear. Not fresh, not deep. Just enough to form a thin symbol, like an eye. None of us spoke. We knew she was marked. We didn't know for what. The next evening, Eliza called. Her voice was hollow, like it echoed from a long hallway. She said she was safe. Said not to come. Said the 13th card had been drawn, but we never touched it. We listened. Behind her voice, laughter. The same slow, dry laugh. In the final scene, Camille stands alone in her room. Her mirror pulses faintly. The moon outside is red. On her desk, a single tarot card, face down. No one put it there. She reaches for it. The screen fades before it's turned. We know he's watching. Waiting. He never left. And the 13th draw hasn't happened yet. Fog settled low over Asheville, North Carolina, thick and unmoving. The forest that bordered Lena's cabin stood still, every tree dark, as if soaked in ink. A single figure walked the gravel path toward the porch, boots silent, coat brushing the ground, mask grinning in the mist. Lena hadn't told anyone she'd returned to the mountains. She needed time alone. Camille's nightmares had grown louder, and Derek's hand trembled when he held his coffee. The group was unraveling. Tarot cards appeared in places they hadn't been beneath pillows, wedged in car vents, floating in dishwater. The cards knew things, and he was always close behind them. Lena's phone rang once, then stopped. When she checked, there was no call, just an image sent from an unknown number, a photo of her sleeping, taken from inside the room. That night, she lit every candle she owned. She pulled a circle of salt around her bed. She laid out 5 tarot cards, hoping for a sign. What flipped was the devil, reversed. And then she heard the boards creak just beyond the wall. Not mice, not branches, a deliberate footstep. Another. Then, silence. He stood outside her window, motionless, mask catching the candlelight. Lena froze. He tapped once, knuckle to glass. She didn't blink. His mouth opened slightly behind the mask. No sound came out, just the slow release of breath that fogged the window. Then a whisper inside her head, not her ears. Come back to the spread. Camille arrived the next morning with Derek. The house was cold. Lena didn't speak. She just pointed to the tarot deck, which had reassembled itself. 13 cards, all face down. Maudie joined that evening, saying the deck was no longer controlled. It chose its reader now. If someone refused, it found another. Camille agreed to one more attempt, not to complete the reading, but to burn the deck, destroy the connection. They set the fire outside, deep in the forest clearing. As flames rose, the air shifted. Everything around them stilled. Birds went silent. The shadows moved first. From between the trees, he emerged again, more solid now. His coat no longer shimmered like illusion. The mask had changed less smooth, more cracked along one edge. He didn't stop at the tree line this time. He walked into the clearing, straight toward Camille. She stepped back. He kept advancing. Derek tried to intercept, but his knees buckled as if his bones refused to hold him. Lena shouted something in a language Maudie had taught her, holding up a charm of woven string. The figure halted, but only for a breath. Then he tilted his head and spoke for the first time. "You can't burn what wants to stay." The fire died in a snap. Smoke reversed. Cold air wrapped around Camille's wrists. Her eyes rolled for half a second, and then she screamed not in fear, but in pain. The deck, untouched by the fire, lay at her feet, rearranged. The lover's card now sat face up. The figure knelt beside her. Gently. Too gently. He ran one finger across her hair, then stood. Behind him, a woman's voice echoed from the forest. Faint. Familiar. Eliza. Camille whispered that she saw her. Not in the trees, but beyond them. In a place that looked like the world, but wasn't. A mirror without reflection. A version of the path where time didn't move and faces bled into the bark of trees. That night, Camille went silent again, her breath shallow. They carried her back into the cabin, but she didn't respond. On her forearm was a new mark, the outline of the world card. But the world on this version was cracked, fragmented, and its center empty. The group debated whether to leave. Maudie insisted they couldn't run. The deck would follow. Derek suggested burying it at a crossroads, as old tales advised. Lena said she'd seen him again, not in the woods, but in her reflection, holding the 13th card. Always the 13th. At the climax, just before dawn, Camille rose suddenly and walked into the trees. The group followed in silence, unable to call to her, unable to move quickly. Every sound echoed unnaturally. The trees whispered. Shapes moved just behind them. They found Camille in a hollow clearing. She knelt at the center of a perfect circle of earth. He stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder, her head tilted toward him, like listening to something too quiet to hear. The 13th card floated midair in front of them. No one reached for it. The moment Derek stepped forward, the figure turned his head sharply. The mask split across the center, revealing only black beneath. Camille opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came. Then she vanished. The forest fell still. In the final moments, Lena finds a single card tucked into her coat pocket as they return to the cabin. The Fool. But it has her face. And somewhere, far down the mountain trail, laughter repeats without echo. Just the sound of breath pretending to be joy, and the path still waits for the next draw.